Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we're getting in the Christmas murder spirit, right, John?
Yes, the it's the holiday spirit, but sometimes there's bad stuff that happens around the holidays too.
Yeah,
And,
like murder.
like
Lots
murder
of
and mayhem.
Yeah. So I don't know. This book. I'm not like a very big Christmas guy. John knows I'm a Scrooge or a Grinch or whatever the fuck you want to call me, John, as you always do.
He's a humbug. But
A
it's
humbug.
okay.
Yeah.
No, you know what it is. We pinned this like I think a year or two ago, and I'll just rehash it real quick. Matt is the character from those stop motion. If you guys have ever watched those old stop motion, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Year Without Santa Claus, those ones, specifically in the one that is about
The miser.
specifically about Santa Claus. Yeah, Matt is Burgermeister Meisterburger. It is 100% him.
Yes. So that's
Anyway.
me apparently, but just generally, like, I'm not a big fan of just things about Christmas in comics or movies or TV or whatever. So I don't know why.
He doesn't have that wholesome heart. He's got an ice heart.
I don't know. I think it's just boring and overdone. That's what it is. It's not like, but this takes place around Christmas, and it is a good story. So today we did a book called Friday, which you may not have heard of, but it is by an all-star team of Ed Brubaker writing it and Marcos Martin doing the art. And I think Munsa Vincente, I think is her name or their name, does the colors. And so, wow. This book is like I've only heard of it. No one ever told me about it. I just saw like on Brubaker's newsletter that I get in my email. He would say like, "Oh, a new thing of Friday's out," and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And I didn't really get what it was, just from like the covers or whatever he would post. But basically, it's like a little it's kind of like a YA murder mystery, except it's only YA sometimes, like when it's violent or when it's like one of the kids is a little older than teenager. She's like 19, right? Or 20. And and that's actually Friday. And so she will swear and smoke and do things that wouldn't be in a YA novel. And then also there's murder and stuff. So it's kind of, it's a very interesting feel. It really feels like the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew, but then at the same time they swear and she's smoking and whatever. So it's a very cool like mix of the two feels.
You said when we were talking about earlier too, the what's that? The Nickelodeon one, Harry the Spy.
Harry the Spy, yeah.
That just because like Harry the Spy is kind of edgy on occasion, like she like.
I don't know. I've actually never like watched the movie or read the books.
She just like she has like knocked out some girls and like
okay,
girls and guys and like on the verge of everything but like cursing and stuff. Like she could be a little badass. So
yeah, I gotcha. So let's just get into this thing because, like I said, I didn't even know what this was other than Ed Brubaker wrote it, which is enough for me to pick something up. And had you? I mean, you're a fairly big Brubaker fan. Like, I think you've liked all his stuff that we've read, like Reckless and did we read Gotham Central? I don't remember if we read Gotham Central.
No, we didn't read Gotham Central, but I liked Reckless. I feel like there's some other.
There's got to be some other ones. I know we haven't got to it, but he wrote some like Parker novel stuff. Once Darwin died, he kind of him and Sean Phillips, who did Reckless together, they did like in honor of Darwin Parker story. That's in like the main big absolute or whatever. So, yeah, he's just a good crime writer. He has written, Batman. Most of the time, he writes characters that are detective-y, and then he writes basically like a crime thing inside of a superhero thing.
That's right. I knew there was a story I really liked. He wrote The Death of Captain America.
Oh yeah. He wrote all of Civil
Winter
War and all
Yeah.
Winter Soldier stuff.
Yeah. So yes, of course, yes. I really like it. That was some of my favorite.
Yes, and that is like an espionage, story, spy thing inside of a superhero comic. So that's what he does. He really likes this kind of genre stuff, and I love his writing. So I picked this up for us. It is available in trade form. It never came out as issues, like on the stands. It only came out digitally, like on some kind of website. I think it's called like Panel Syndicate or something. I'll put a link in the show notes, but you can buy it for any price you want, I believe. So like I bought all these for $3, but you could buy them for $1 each or whatever. And they have 8 issues so far. They're just continuing to do it. I think it's probably like maybe 4 months in between issues or something like that, 4 to 6 months, because they're doing it kind of on their own. And then they put them together in trade form through Image, and they put them out through that. So I actually, after reading these digital versions, went and bought the trades of them because I liked it so much. So that might give you a hint as to what I will rate it at the end. But anyway, we start off in this town called Kings Hill, which is somewhere in New England. I don't know where. It's a fictional town for sure. But it definitely has that New England feel. There's a lighthouse on the, jut out of a rocky shore, and then this little kind of ocean village town called Kings Hill. And we start off like already in the middle of it, which is good. There's no buildup. It's just here you are, action. We see there's people looking for something in the woods, and when we cut to it, we see there's Friday, the main character, who like we said is a 19, 20-year-old girl or young woman, and then her friend, who's named Lancelot Jones, is like boy genius. Like he is 2 years younger than her, but he was in the same grades, or was he 2 years over her in grade, or was he in her grade but he's 2 years younger?
He's 2 years younger, yeah. But
I know he's 2 years younger than her, but I can't remember if he was two years ahead of her in grades or not. Like, because he's so smart, he skipped grades. So, but either way, boy genius. But he's like uses that smarts for detectiving. So, he is walking along with the sheriff, and they're looking through the woods for some case that Lancelot was on. And as they're walking, we get some like inner narration about how Friday and Lancelot, they're really good friends, but there's something happened in the relationship when she left to go to college, and he, still, I guess he stayed behind. Something happened. We don't know what it is yet, but there's some awkwardness between them, and Lancelot is not bringing it up to her, and she's kind of in her head, and he's on his case, so he's not really thinking about her at all. But as they're walking in the woods, I can't remember what. I guess someone stole a knife, right? Like that's what it is. Like someone stole a dagger from the museum.
Yeah, there's like a dagger that was just found recently in a dig, and it was going to the museum.
Yeah, and so they're on the trail of this guy who stole it, and so like that's what they're looking in the woods for, and then they think they see someone in the woods, but it's like a shadow, and they run around, like it runs away, and so they're like, oh, we should follow it. So then we cut away from there, and we cut back a couple days earlier as Friday is arriving on the train. And, that's where we get more of like how awkward it is between them, where Lancelot and her have only talked like a little bit over the last year as she's been in college. And she's got a boyfriend now and stuff in college. But she's getting picked up by them at the train station. By them, I mean Lancelot and the sheriff. Because Lancelot's like, oh, I need your help with this thing. So that's literally, they went from the train station to the woods to look for this knife or whatever, this dagger. And so, what were you going to say?
That was kind of the point that she was driving, is that every time they happened to talk, it was always about something he was working on, never about either what happened between them or what their friendship or anything like real personal. It was always like, oh no, I'm just I was working on this case with the sheriff or whatever.
Yeah. So he's kind of avoiding having the hard talk with her, which he's a young kid. He probably likes her and whatnot, but he doesn't know what to do. So. He's doing the wrong thing, as we usually do when we're young and stupid. But as they're walking through the woods, they come upon this guy. What's his name? Something Weasel or something?
Yeah, it is. Weasel Wadsworth. Wadsworth, I believe.
Weasel Wadsworth. There you go. So Weasel is carving something into the tree with the dagger, and instead of like just rushing at him, Friday's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to like throw these snowballs that are packed with rocks at him and try to knock him out. So they do that, and it does actually hit him in the face, and knocks the dagger out of his hand, but he is like frothing at the mouth. He's crazy, and he jumps at her and attacks her as she's trying to like get him. And then he goes and runs away into the woods, and then he gets knocked out by her as she throws another snowball. So they capture him. Then I said the sheriff as well, and they arrest him and throw him in the back, and he's kind of just like out of it. But he's saying things like, "The white lady, she made me. I have to help the white lady." Like he's talking about the white lady and all this stuff, and it's just kind of mumbling about all that. So, just weird stuff going on, right? Like there's a dagger, that's odd, and then we kind of find out that, like we said, Lancelot has all these cases going on all the time since he was a little kid, and she was kind of like helping him out and whatnot. And we get we get a little of like how they met. Once she comes home, there's like, we see that she has two moms. So I got confused by this. Did you get confused by this?
Yeah, because I did it first because she called the one the aunt, but then when I noticed, like, I think she either like had her hands on her like shoulders or was holding her hand at one point. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Aunt is in, like, she just didn't call them both mom. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, is it actually her aunt? But then it shows them like sleeping in the same bed and they're like spooning. So I'm like, oh, they got to be like, I don't know any aunts that would that would do that. So maybe they're really close aunts, but then later on they say, oh, the moms. So other people in the town call them the moms. So we know that they're like a couple. And but it doesn't really, I mean, it's just, the one thing I like about this is, like, this to me is the way that you do that. Like, there's not a big to-do about it. It's just, yeah, it's normal. We got a family with two moms. Who cares? They're good moms. They're good parents. Good job. Like, and then later on, like, some people make a deal out of it, like a big thing about it, but that's on them. Like, it's not like the writers trying to give themselves a pat on the back or some shit. You know what I mean? So I like that. But then, like I said, we get, as she comes home, she kind of goes to bed, and then we get like how they met, how her and Lancelot met. And of course, she's playing hockey. She's kind of like not a tomboy necessarily, but just like a not girly girl. Because like I said, she's playing hockey. She's not afraid to get her like knees skinned up on the ice and whatnot. And then she sees Lancelot getting bullied by a bunch of kids from his school, including the older brother of that weasel kid that was going crazy in the woods at the beginning of this book. And she sees this and tells him to stop, and then slap shots a puck into that kid's face, into the weasel's brother's face, and then defends Lancelot. And that's how they met. So they're friends from the beginning, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They get along really well.
I like that right away he's like, hey, you want a job? And she's like, what are you talking about? You're 11.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I need a bodyguard, obviously, and let's go get some donuts, talk about your salary. And then yeah, it's like obviously like he's kind of being joking, but also kind of serious because like, oh wow, she's kind of a badass.
Yeah.
So I just thought their relationship is really cute. It's very obvious he is like, he's on the spectrum. He's extremely smart. He's maybe got some autism.
They don't say that though.
No, but I think it's implied because of
okay.
like, how like specifically intense he is on certain things, especially all the case stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's just their relationship is adorable. Right away, I was sucked in between what's going on.
Yes, I loved their relationship. It's just like that YA kind of platonic, like we're on adventure relationship, and they get along. Like you could see it getting romantic if later on something happened or whatever, but like for the most part, it's just them like solving mysteries. And this is one of the things I love about this book is the art style. They are very stylized looking, the way that Martin draws the people. Their faces are kind of smushed from the top and bottom, so they kind of like have a really wide face. And I don't know, I just love the way that he drew them. What do you think of the art for them?
I was gonna say I really love the character designs. So Friday has like this really cute, like, I don't know, kind of, like she's a redhead, so they kind of play on that motif, like I guess like you said, kind of maybe not tomboy, but like
yeah.
yeah, like kind of tough redhead, and then he's kind of got that like not like a bowl cut, but like definitely like the like I get
He's a
more
preppy
athletic.
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it is really cute, and they both have like really wide eyes, and she's got really like blue piercing eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cute. I liked both of the character designs.
Yeah, and one thing I loved about this, and I can't wait. This has to happen, and I need Brubaker to know this. Okay, so they she's talking about how they met and how they got along together, and then it's like, and then we had all these fun kid adventures, and we see little pamphlets or little books, novels or whatever of their adventures, and I'm like, I want the comics of those young adult adventures. Like, I would love it if he actually made like a young adult comic series that were those adventures. And then we get this Friday novel that's a little bit more adult because they're a little bit more grown up,
Yeah, that would be so cool to have like these little like literally it could just be like one offs, like either one or two issues of the adventures.
Yeah, or I'm thinking like little graphic novels, like but kid ones, like because like Scholastic style or something, like Bone,
Oh, okay.
that style. Like, I think that would really be cool. And I was totally into this team of adventuring. And one thing we learned about their adventures is they're not just straight, detective stories. There's a lot of maybe magic or kind of supernatural elements to some of their stuff, like Revenge of the Sea Maiden, Curse of the Viking Helmet, The Case of the Magic Gauntlet. Like, these are it kind of alludes to things might not all be just straight, realistic mysteries. Like, it's not like it's kind of like Scooby-Doo where it's like, oh, it's a ghost, and then it's not a ghost, right? It's like that's realistic because we're like, oh no, it's Mr. Jenkins. He had white face paint on or whatever. This is actually like when Scooby-Doo goes to Zombie Island or something, and it's actual zombies. So that's one thing I liked is just that, and then I would love to see those stories in their own thing, because I think it could actually sell well. I think because YA comics are kind of like the big thing right now. And I think they would sell well. And then when those kids grow up, they got Friday to read, So, but anyway, once we hear about all their little adventures, then we see like her when she's 17 and she's at prom, and she decided not to go with Lancelot because she didn't want to go with someone just as friends. She wanted to be like a normal girl and go on a date with someone. So she went with this dumb kid named Danny Buttons. Which is a great name.
What a name.
Yeah, what a name.
Danny Buttons.
Yeah, and she actually like kissed him, and they imply that she had sex with him that night too. And also, we should say this is set in like the 70s because we see when they go to the movies that the movie they're watching is Live and Let Die. So the James Bond movie. So that's in the 70s for sure. Maybe is that 70s or early 80s? It might be late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember.
Now you're saying
when
that.
it switches.
Yeah, I was like, when did Live and Let Die? Anyway,
I think it's 70s. I'm almost 100% sure. But
1973.
Yeah, there you go. So, look at you. Johnny on the spot. So yeah, we learned like, okay, she's got her, dating thing. But we do find out that she's not really into that guy. She's just kind of like wanted to try dating and then stuck with him for a little bit. But eventually she did break up with him. And then we see that this is all before she went to college still. We see that she goes to visit Lancelot in his little tree house or like clubhouse. But this is the coolest clubhouse I've ever seen. What do you think about this clubhouse?
When she goes down the road, and I'm like, oh, cool, they're going to see their little place or whatever. This is by far the coolest because it's not up in the tree. It's like the base of this tree.
It's like in the stump. It's like in the stump. Yeah. Like the tree maybe got hurt or something, and so there was like a cave or like a carving out of the underneath where the roots are, and they like built they call it not a clubhouse, they call it what's it called? Like investigation.
Yeah, Jones and Fitzhugh investigation.
Yeah, and it's their
headquarters.
Headquarters, there you go. Because they're like, we're not little kids. We're solving real mysteries, and they make sure that that they actually do solve real mysteries. They actually help the sheriff, who's she says a bad investigator, like solve a lot of stuff. So this is the night that she decided to see if there was anything between them she kind of felt like there was something there, but we weren't 100% sure, or she wasn't 100% sure. So she's like, I'm going to make a move and see how he feels. So she kisses him, and basically she said it was the most awkward 15 minutes ever. Like, they kept trying to make it work and repositioning and kissing, but it just felt wrong. It didn't work quite right. And I was like, I wonder, because he didn't leave it like, oh, like for sure we're not anything. There's nothing there. He made it seem like she, or maybe he was so awkward, like he didn't know what he was doing at all, and so she's kind of only had one boyfriend. So, like maybe they were just so awkward about it that it just kind of made it not happen.
Yeah.
Because later on she does say like there's something between us.
And being a kid and having those kind of experiences, like this definitely is written like that. Like I've had a very similar experience where I liked somebody and it was, we knew each other for a long time, and then finally we're just like, hey, are we doing this? And it was really awkward at first. So
yeah, you never know. But that night when she leaves after the awkwardness, and that's also what she was talking about at the beginning when she came back. That was like the elephant in the room.
Before.
Yeah, that's the night before she left to college. But then when she comes back from college, they never talked about the awkwardness. So it was like he just pretended like nothing happened, and then they never talked about it. So now it's the elephant in the room when they see each other this time when she comes back from college. So, but on the way back from the house the night that they did the kiss, or from the clubhouse to her house, this is like the first supernatural thing that happened. She runs into this old lady that's sitting on a stone wall in the middle of the woods, and the lady has a crazy face, and I don't know. She gets all creepy and sends her on a trippy, demonic thing. I don't know exactly what happens. Do you know exactly what happens, John?
Yeah, I mean, so like she's talking with her, and she's like, oh, you should know who I am, and then like there's this crazy like flip out, and then there's this kid that pops up in front of her, and she realizes it's Lancelot, and he starts saying some words, but she doesn't quite understand of what's going on, and then she freaks out because she's like, wait, this does seem familiar. I know what this is, and she wakes up and she had a dream.
Yeah, so this was a dream of, now she's remembering it. So this actually happened though. Right?
Well, that's what we don't know that.
No, I felt like this actually happened, and then when she had her dream and woke up from it, that like this happened, before she left to college, and then she's dreaming about it now that she's back in town, back from college. That's how I read it.
Oh, I read it as like she felt like maybe something like that happened, but she doesn't like. She's like, it feels familiar, but then also is like because she was like, she like that's exactly what happened when she was walking away, but then she wakes up and she's like, oh, yeah, this is a dream. I feel like I've had this dream before. So that's the way I took it, is like oh, maybe something like that happened. I didn't know if it was supernatural yet per se.
I felt like that fully happened, and then she woke up and she was like, how the hell am I here, or whatever,
I wasn't giving the story that much supernatural like backing it. I thought still like maybe they were just a little bit exaggerative in their.
I got you.
Because they were kids when those other stories were.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually wrong about this. She wakes up in her bed later that same night. It's not when she comes back from college yet. So this is her the night before she goes to college, still the night when she's leaving after making out with him. She sees the old lady, then like time disappears and she just wakes up in bed and she's like, how the fuck did I get here? So that's why I was like, if she doesn't know how she got home, then it's got to be supernatural something, right?
True. I just maybe it could be a blur too from just being such an awkward situation, and maybe she just like pushed it to the back.
I guess.
This is where I'm just kind of telling you where I'm coming from it, because like I wasn't fully into it being a supernatural story.
Right. Okay. I got you. Well, I took it as that, so I was like fully into the supernatural thing already. So, so then she does have the same dream when she comes back home for the first time after college. So, and then she knows this time what he was saying, because she like John said, she saw Lancelot tell the woman something, and then the woman went away, and so Lancelot's yelling at this giant. I don't know, explosion of a dragon lady or some shit is what it looks like. And he's saying,
Yeah, it very much looks like something out of like a Miyazaki.
yeah, something like that. Miyazaki, or I was going to say the guy who did Uzumaki or something like that, like,
Junji Ito.
yeah, Junji Ito. There you go. But yeah, so Lancelot's yelling, "Stop, white lady, not her. She's not the one." And that's what made the lady go away. So she's like, so when she wakes up now, she's back from college, and she's like, wait, white lady? Oh, shit. Like, I know what that is now. Because she's remembering what Weasel said in the car about a white lady, and she's like, why do I know that? And then when she was in bed later that night, she thought, oh, I know what white lady is. It's what Lancelot said. So she goes to see Lancelot because now she's like, okay, I got an idea of where to look, but she can't find him. She goes to his dad works at the lighthouse. He's like the lighthouse guy, whatever that's called. And is there a name for that? Do you know? A lighthouser. I don't know.
I was like a lighthouse caretaker.
There you go, a caretaker. So like as she's going to his place, we notice that it's raining, or not raining, it's snowing pretty hard. And she runs into a couple people in town that seem kind of like they know her, and they're like, oh, you're back, huh? And I don't know, just like getting to know some of the people who might be characters later on. But she goes to Lancelot's house, which is right next to the lighthouse, and he's not there. So she's like, where the fuck is he? So she's like, oh, you know what? She goes to like his window and goes up into his room, and then he left a note for her, and it says, hey, if you get this before the storm breaks, meet me at headquarters. So she's like, oh, of course he left a note and just didn't tell me. He fucking call me, And so but I like that though. It kind of added to like the little Hardy Boyness of it or something, like it felt really old school. Like, of course they're gonna leave notes for each other. Like,
yeah, it felt like, oh man, like even though like they've had this time apart, they're kind of like right back where they were.
Yeah. And so she heads to the headquarters, and when she gets there, it's on fire. And she's like, what the hell? And so she goes inside, and she sees Lance is dead, and he is like already burned up and singed. And she's like, oh my God. And this is where like the violence comes in, right? Because like before this, I mean, we saw the kid, Weasel, get a rock thrown at him or whatever, and he's foaming at the mouth. But this is like, you see her find her best friend like singed, and his face is disfigured. And then she sees someone looking out the window, or looking into the window, and she's like, what? Hey, stop. And then she runs out, and then someone hits her in the back of the head with a tree branch, and she blacks out. And then when she comes to, the person's gone, but there's footprints in the snow. She knows it wasn't like a tree branch falling on her or something. She knows someone was for sure there. And then she goes back into the headquarters, which is still on fire. It's just burning more now. And she pulls out Lancelot's body, and, she knows he's dead. There's nothing I can do. And so that's like, I thought that was pretty heavy ending to that little chapter of like, oh, it's your friend. He's dead.
I honestly, she's pulling him out, and I was like, I know she's like, oh, it's too late now, but I was like, maybe it won't be a full, and then it won't be a full, like, oh no, like, are they really gonna kill this character already? I was like,
yeah,
friends, like, holy shit,
they're supposed to solve mysteries together, damn it.
Exactly. And then I'll just say, as we turn to the next chapter, it's like the first page is like they just had the fucking funeral.
Nah, he dead.
Oh my God, no, his kid's really dead.
Yeah, he died. She is just stuck in her room in depression because her best friend died, and she didn't even get to talk to him about, like, maybe there was something there, and they just needed to kind of talk about it and work through it, But she just can't do anything. She can't eat. She just wants to be in bed and not think about everything. So then we see what happened that night once the fire was put out, and the police show up, and we see this Detective Cross. She comes in from out of city. She's from some place called Knightsbridge, and I guess because it's a murder case or whatever. Maybe their clubhouse is in some other county or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she's a big city cop compared to
Yeah,
the little sheriff here.
yeah, and so she's asking Friday a bunch of questions like, "Hey, so this was your clubhouse?" And she's like, "It's not a clubhouse, it's a headquarters." And then like, "Okay, well, whatever." Like she's very dismissive of them because they're kids. And then she's like, "Oh, were there chemicals in there? Did he play with chemicals? Could he have burned this down with the chemicals?" And all that kind of stuff. Like basically they're trying to pin it on him. And Friday's saying like, "No, I saw someone here. There was at least two people. I saw two footprints or two pairs of footprints going away from here." And no one's believing her. I mean, some people in the town do. Like the sheriff is like, "I mean, I don't fully understand what you're saying, but I believe that you believe it, and that's good enough for me," kind of thing. But for sure, this Detective Cross doesn't believe her at all. So they do end up blaming him and saying it's not a murder. It's just an accident. He burned his clubhouse down and he died in the process. So she finds that out from a guy who I guess his dad works at the police station, and he comes into her room through the window and he's like, "Hey, just I'm sorry to hear about your friend. It's not a murder." And she's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Yeah, my dad told me. So you need some comfort or whatever." He like tries to make a move. I'm like, "Oh God."
That's the old boyfriend. That's Bobby.
Is that him? Okay.
Yeah.
He looks a little different. I guess because he's got a little
panty buttons.
he's got a little mustache growing in. So
he's a little older. Look at my sweet mustache.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him in that. But yeah, he tries to comfort her in quotation marks. But it doesn't work. And of course, she's just more sad than ever. So she goes the next day to talk to the sheriff and be like, "What the fuck? Why is this not considered a murder from what I told them?" And basically the sheriff's like, "Look, I'm in trouble because I'm letting kids help me solve mysteries or murders or whatever and investigate with me. And so like I didn't push it more than that, because if Detective Cross is now investigating him, he's not going to ruffle her feathers." So that's what he tells her basically, is like, "I'm going to lose my job if I don't." But he does help her out. He takes her to the evidence room, and then also like down into the cells where the weasel guy is being held. Is he being held there, or is he?
Oh no, she told him. He said he's at the hospital still.
Oh, that's right. He's at the hospital. He's got guard. So he's like, "Well, he's guarded, so you won't be able to see him." And she's like, you know me better than that. Like, I'll get in there. Don't worry." So she dresses up like a nurse and then walks by the cop who's guarding him and is like, "Oh, I got to feed him." And then she goes into Weasel's room because she's like, he's the only connection to Lance. Like, that's the case we were on. Someone killed him for some reason, and maybe it's this case, right? So she talks to Lance in the hospital, and he's just like, "Do I know you? Like, who are you?" Like, his mind is wiped, basically, or at least that's what it seems. And so she's like, "Fuck, like, this isn't going to be good. There's nothing here." So then she goes back to the clubhouse, the headquarters, which is all burned down, but she's like, "Maybe I'll find something here." He had a case book of every case, so maybe he's got like the newest one. Maybe that didn't get burned. And she searches for a couple hours, doesn't find it, and then she's like, "Oh, you know what? I haven't gone to see his dad yet," because she needs to go to his house to look in his room to see if the casebook is there. So she feels bad because she didn't go to his dad yet and say, "Sorry about your son dying." And so she goes there now. She says she's sorry. They have like their own little, like, not makeup thing, but like, he's like, "Oh yeah, I understand. Like, I miss him too."
Yeah, you could understand. They were pretty much inseparable there for a while, best friends. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Your family. You can come around here anytime." Like, but she's like, "Shh, you don't have to say anything. It's okay. We both understand."
Yeah. But then also she comes in to the house to get some cocoa or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, while you're here, like, Lance had a present for you." And then he hands her the present, and she looks at the note on it and says, "For Friday, top secret, your eyes only, from Lance." And she's like, "Oh my God." She opens it, and of course it's his fucking case book. And so that's like, okay, that's what she needed. She needed something to put her on the trail of this whole thing. So in that book, there was like 5 cases he was working on. One of them was like a husband who was potentially cheating on his wife. One of them was a college kid that got lost in the sewers. One of them was like a neighborhood cat that got lost or whatever. And yeah, so there's just like all these things that don't seem to be related in any way. But you know, she checks them all out. And like she thought none of them were kind of related. But as she's going through them, she does check on one specifically, because she's like, okay, maybe the symbols, because inside that there's like symbols on the book, and the last case was the one that they were on with the dagger. So she's like, okay, I need to research this dagger. So she goes to the library and she starts looking up like ancient symbols, and you know, she Harry Potter's that shit, you know, where they like look through the library for hours. Or even like Buffy, they spend a lot of time in the library. So, so she eventually, what were we gonna say?
I was saying, and lo and behold, what does she come across while she's at the library?
The symbol, which looks like a shamrock.
Yeah, well, but also like something else hidden, and like to keep her on the trail.
Yeah.
From wow, I almost said Lone Star, from Lancelot.
Lancelot, yeah. And that is a note. He left a note in the book. So he's literally leaving her like breadcrumbs as she finds his little, notes and little clues. So he's having a blast even after he's dead. Like, like being a little, like Sherlock Holmes kind of guy or whatever, leaving little hints for her. He won't just tell her straight out what it is. She got to look for herself. So, it says in the notes, find the girl in the trees and find the truth. And so she's like, what does that mean? Like, okay, there was a girl that they thought they saw in the trees, so maybe that's what it is. So eventually, like I said, she kind of asks everybody, or she goes to like all the people of the other cases. And one of them was that kid that got lost in the sewer. So she goes to him and she's like, hey, you got a second? I wanted to talk to you because, it's about Lancelot. He found you in the sewer. Do you know what this symbol means? And she holds up the casebook and shows him a symbol. And he's like, no, I've never seen that symbol at all, ever. And then she's like, what about the white lady? Do you know what the white lady is? And he's like, of course not. I've never heard of it. And so she's like, he's fucking lying. So she knows now that's a lead. I can follow him. So as she leaves, she waits for him. And of course he leaves because he's got to go tell whoever that she's on to them. So he drives away. She hotwires a moped and follows him all the way to this little club called the Arcadian Club. And it's one of those like kind of like a Mason thing. So when she gets there, she sees a man who meets the boy that she was following, and she recognizes him. And it is the man that Lancelot had of one of the other cases, and it was the guy that was supposedly cheating on his wife. So right there, she's like, hey, obviously all these cases are connected.
And he's pretty creepy looking, so it's like, okay, I don't like this guy.
I guess. I don't know. He's just got a beard or whatever. He doesn't look that creepy.
He's drunk creepy.
All right. But as they're walking up the steps, they get invited in, and Friday sees that it is Detective Cross, the lady that was like trying to say the murder was not a murder. And so she's like, oh my God, this is like a big thing, right? So I guess in one of their, and I love this, she's like, oh, of course I knew how to sneak into the Arcadian Club because one of our mysteries like before, or one of our like adventures that we went on from before was at the Arcadian Club, and we knew how to sneak into it. So she takes, she climbs the wall and goes up to the second floor and then breaks into one of the doors. And then, so she's walking along the second floor, which is kind of like an open, it's got like an open area into the parlor, and she's walking on the borders of it. She's looking down at them in the parlor, and there's a bunch of people there, all of whom she recognizes from the journal or the casebook that he has, right? And she's like, "Oh my God!" And they're talking like, "Oh my!" So she knows, huh? Well, we can't have that. We have to take care of her. The ceremony is tomorrow night, and like, like they pull out the dagger that was supposed to have been sent back or in evidence or sent back to the museum or whatever. So obviously something's going on in the background, right? With these like Mason people.
Yeah, this scene very much made me think of Hot Fuzz. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So like all these big people in the town are involved in something that's going on here? I still was like, I wasn't sure how supernaturally it was going to get.
Right.
I thought, like, okay, there's a little element to it, but like, is it just like these people in cahoots and they think that they have to keep up these traditions or something?
Yeah.
I wasn't 100%, but like this definitely was like, oh shit, like there is something bigger going on here.
Yeah, secret society stuff.
Yeah.
It's for the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as she's waiting up there, she notices that the symbol that Lancelot had drawn in his book was covering the walls. There's a bunch of them on the walls. And she's like, oh, that's right. That's the fucking symbol of these Arcadian people. And then she like pushes on one of them and the door opens. It's like a secret door where there's like something hidden in there. And it's a watch, but like a 70s digital watch, which I appreciated. I was like, that thing is fucking gigantic for like a watch. You know what I mean? Like it looks like an iWatch or like an Apple Watch or whatever, but like with no screen on it.
Yeah, I thought it would look like those old calculator watches.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that too. Maybe this might even be bigger than those because like this is 73 or whatever. So
yeah.
But so she sees this and she's like, what is this watch? But she takes it and then she puts her attention back to the people talking in the middle of the room, and Detective Cross is like, you know what? We got to make it look like an accident. We're going to have to kill her and her mothers, and they're going to die in a fire, just like Lancelot. And so she's like, I'll do it right now. So Detective Cross leaves, and Friday's like, oh shit, like I have to get back to my house before she gets there so I can stop her. And of course, the detective has a car, and she does not. Friday doesn't. And so Friday does a Ferris Bueller. This reminded me of that.
Oh, yeah.
She's trying to beat, the sheriff back or the detective back to her place, and she's jumping through everybody's, yards and taking shortcuts and trying to beat her back.
Dodging dogs.
Yeah, everything. But nothing seems to go right. And when she gets there, it's too late. Her parents have already opened the door and let the detective in. And she's like, fuck it. I'm not going to let her kill my parents tonight. So Friday takes a little hatchet that's outside, for cutting wood or whatever. And she runs into the house. And when she does, this is where the supernatural kicks in. We got a Cthulhu monster, basically, that the detective has called forth. And she's like floating in the air, saying some like ancient magic language. And this Cthulhu monster with the tentacles have wrapped around the moms. And, she's about to kill them and then start a fire. And so as Friday sees this, well, first off, I should ask John, you thought it wasn't supernatural until now, I assume, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's like I said, I knew. Okay, so I felt the little bit of supernatural in there, but again, that I saw the scene with all of them, like, oh, okay, like maybe it's just they think they have to keep up appearances, like old rituals, it's important to the town kind of thing, or something along those lines. And then literally her being like, no, she can't like start a fire or whatever. Like I have to stop this. Grabs the axe, and then literally the page turning and like again, we'll go back to the art with this is that it goes from like these dark wintry colors,
but blue and gray,
to super vibrant, super like an explosion of color with like yellows and pinks and purples for the monster tentacles. And it was very much like, oh no, okay, shit, like no, there's something very bigger at hand here. It's like Hellboy and something kind of recalling Cthulhu or something from another universe or something.
Yeah, I thought this was great. And then so Friday, doesn't hesitate at all. She just strikes with an axe and hits the detective in the chest. And it, she thinks, she's down, but then she does what she's supposed to do, even though, she got a good chest hit with this axe. She double taps, which I was like, yeah. And she hits the detective in the head, in the skull, and like buries that fucking hatchet there. So I was like, hell to the yeah. And that's where like this comes in. This is not a child story anymore, but her moms are still wrapped up in these tentacles, and she tries to break them out, but something's going on with them. They've gone into like a sleep or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened to them, but wrapped in these tentacles, they've just kind of gone into some kind of magical sleepness or whatever. But then Friday hears a voice from behind her, and it turns out that she did not kill the detective. The detective is some sort of lizard person, because she pulls the axe out of her head like it's nothing, and she's like, "You thought that could kill me, huh?" And then the skin starts to like come off and shit. So like, it's very, very creepy. It kind of reminded me. There's this this issue of Hellboy called The Crooked Man, and the art in this reminded me of that. Where like the posing of her once she gets all like lizarded out, the way that she like holds herself. She's got a big hunchback, and her mouth is like almost like she's had like the Joker's laughing gas, like from the animated series when it looks like it hurts and they're smiling, you know?
Yes.
That's what it looks like. Her face gets all crazy. And then she starts chasing Friday with the hatchet. And this was very intense. I was like, holy shit. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But Friday is, quick on her feet. She's able to get some like bleach and throw it in the monster's eyes. And then, as she gets chased up the stairs, Friday's like, what can kill this thing? Like, it seems to be somewhat based on like tree magic or something. So like, what hurts trees? And she's like, fire. So she gets some Aquanet out of the bathroom and takes her lighter out, because we know she smokes, and she fucking burns the shit out of that monster, the detective monster. And then the detective runs out on fire screaming and just runs out of the window on the second floor and falls down dead in front of the house burning. And of course there's a witness that just sees the sheriff or the detective on fire. And
someone walking their dog is like,
yeah,
what the?
Yeah, what the fuck? The detective just fell out of the window on fire, and Friday's standing there looking at her. So of course the second that the detective dies, the tentacle monster goes away in the living room. And then the moms wake up and they're like, what happened? And then, they look outside, and then it's like, oh, fuck. Like, there's a dead officer in our front yard. What the fuck are we going to do? So, of course, they have to arrest Friday because, what else are you going to do? There's a dead officer in your front yard. And she's trying to tell the sheriff who arrested her, like, look, I didn't do this. I'm telling you, she was some kind of monster. And like, that's all I know. Like, I did what I had to do to live. And he's like, I get it. Like, I'm not sure if I believe you fully, but like, I know that you wouldn't just kill someone for no reason or whatever. So, he's kind of on her side, but he has to do his job. So he puts her in a cell, and he doesn't do a good job of booking her. Probably because he sucks at his job anyway.
Yeah.
He doesn't like take any of her like items out of her pockets and shit as he puts her in a cell. In fact, he doesn't do any of this stuff to book her. He doesn't like fingerprint her or like paperwork or anything. None of that shit. So she looks in her pocket, and she still has that watch that she found. And so she's like, well, what does this have to do with anything? Like, what do you do, watch? And she's like, starts thinking about it, and she's like, God damn it. Like, sometimes you just want to scream. Sometimes you just want to wish. Like, I wish I could go back to before, the night that I got home. That same night that I got home before Lance was dead. And it turns out that watch is basically like a magical time machine item. It takes her back in time to 8 hours before she gets back from college. So she still is in the prison, but the door's not locked because no one was in that cell. 8 hours before she got back. So, and then when she gets out of there, one of the officers is like, "Oh, I thought the sheriff was going to pick you up with Lancelot." So that's how she knows. Oh shit! Like, it's before I was supposed to get picked up. And then she sees the train arrive, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm on that train." And so she starts to figure out like, "Oh, I went back in time for real." And then, yeah, that's where we leave it. We leave it with her realizing that she went back in time with her watch or whatever. So that's the end of the 6th chapter, the 6th book. There are 8 available at the moment, but this seemed like a good place to stop. because it's not concluded yet. So even if we went to 8, you wouldn't know anything yet. So, but man, I really love this book, and I got to figure out, John, what did you think, and what would you give it?
I loved it. I love the mark that like the time travel out of nowhere was like, what the fuck is going on?
But it still
And
seemed to
then,
fit. It still seemed to
but
fit with their little adventures that they showed earlier. You know?
for sure, yeah. Once the tentacle monster showed, like game's on for
Yeah,
whatever.
anything can happen.
But then I really like the line that it ends on in this episode too. Is that she doesn't need to find the girl in the trees. Friday is the girl in the trees.
Oh yeah, she
'Cause-
figures that out. Like I
Yeah,
was the one in the trees.
So yeah, so it was like, oh fuck, like so like it this cliffhanger is like, so wait a minute, was she there the whole time, like watching things go on? Is like what has been like where is this going? Like I loved it. I thought this was extremely well written. I really enjoyed the art. It was very unique character designs, like you said. The colors were really like they're in a bright room, but they're outside in the dark cold. Like everything felt really good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, when anything like supernatural, like the monsters appear and stuff like that, it just like exploded with crazy colors. Or the time travel, like very like trippy, almost like Kirby esque.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that.
It's very cool.
Like 60s
or like
Kirby.
exactly, or her dream sequence that, like you said, the Junji Ito Kirby colors, crazy like maybe Miyazaki, like
The White Lady.
demons. Yeah, just very cool. So like it had a lot of really unique styles like incorporated in. And again, yeah, just the story was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I definitely want to know how this ends. I may have read the next two, and yeah, they don't conclude yet, so I'm still at a cliffhanger. So I am definitely ready to find out how like this fully resolves this tale at least. And I agree with you. I didn't think about it until you said it. Like I totally would like want to read like their little adventures now.
Yeah.
Just to see like what kind of crazy shenanigans they got into, and what other maybe like it doesn't go so hard in the paint for some of the
That's what I'm saying. Like he actually makes them YA for real. Like so,
Yeah.
there's no swearing, there's no extreme violence. Just
But yeah, maybe
suspense.
we get some suspense. Maybe we still get like some like supernaturally stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
That would be really cool. I would totally read those too. So yeah, I like this a lot. I'm gonna give it a 9.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm giving this a 10. I loved it. I couldn't stop reading it. I was like, this is great. I read all the way up to issue 8. At first I thought I didn't when we were talking, because that's how fast I read it. But then now that we stopped here, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally went to 8. I don't know what I was thinking when I told you I didn't. But yeah, so like it was just so good. Like I loved the art. I loved the story. I loved the little relationship between her and her friend Lance. I don't know. This took me back to like reading the Hardy Boys when I was a kid, because like I used to read a lot of those kind of detective kid novels and stuff when I was younger, which is probably why I still love that kind of stuff. So I just feel like, and this is also a different kind of Brubaker. That's also why I like it, because I've read a lot of Brubaker stuff, and it's generally like at a certain level and it stays there or high or gets higher. So like, he's generally at like a 7 or an 8 at like his weakest stuff. And then the best stuff is like a 9 or a 10, right? And this, but it's always like more adult kind of mysteries, spy stuff, or just like really violent, stuff going on. Whereas this had a totally different feel than anything he's written, but it still felt like him. It still had a little bit of the stuff that he's known for, in his in crime comics, but because of the YA thing, I loved it. I loved the feel of this book, and I like I said, I even bought the actual physical trade paperbacks of them because they're great. So because it was so good. So now I just he needs to finish this. If he doesn't finish this, I'm going to be pissed, because I think he will. I mean, I hope he gets enough readers and everything and people buying it to make it profitable enough to continue. But it would be awesome if he made it. He did the little stories with her and Lancelot when they were kids, and then like I said, you just start off with those, and then the kids would read them, and then when they get old enough, they're like, oh wait, Friday, is that like Friday Joe, like Friday from the thing? And then like, and then realize, oh shit, she's all grown up now, and there's like swearing and smoking and violence, and Lancelot dies. What? I love Lancelot, So Yeah, I just think this was like a great series, and I think I'm really glad we read it because I wasn't sure about it. I hadn't heard anybody say anything about it, but I think this is one of his stronger things because it's so different.
Yeah.
Um,
No, this is a great one. I'm surprised that this really hasn't been one that maybe more people haven't caught on with. So hopefully, some people hear this and it gets traction on its own, and
yeah.
maybe some people will see that it's not really a Christmas tale, but it had the first Christmas
Well, it takes
in
place in
there.
winter, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So it's a wintry
she's
holiday.
back for Christmas
She
break.
she gets a Christmas present that's very integral to the story. So
That's true. So there you go. Christmas. If a Christmas present was opened, God damn it, it's a Christmas story. As far
if
as I'm
Die
concerned.
Hard is a Christmas movie,
Yes.
then this is a Christmas story.
Yeah. Also, this could totally be a movie or a TV show series. I would love that. So.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely. It's very cinematic.
Yeah, but and like we said, I'll put the link in the show notes of this episode for the digital versions of them. You can find them on Amazon if you want to buy them, or probably at your local comic book shop. They can order them as well. But so you can just search Friday Comics on Amazon and get the trades. But if you want the digital versions, which like I said before, you can pay anything for. You can pay 50 cents for each issue, or $1 or $10, whatever. But yeah, but you get PDF versions of them. So I liked that a lot. And that's what we did for this. So yeah, that's from Panel Syndicate is the name of that website. But like I said, I'll put the link in there. And then next, our second episode, of course, is our usual Patreon voted episode. So we're doing a bunch of actual Christmas themed comics. So what are those comics again, John?
Yeah, so we got our Patreon pull up now. So if you are a patron, make sure to go check out our holiday stories poll. If you're not a patron, patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. You can sign up now. We've got several different tiers. Some of those tiers get you extra podcasts. As Matt does his I almost said Hellblazer.
Hellblazer.
Goodness. Hellblazer podcast. So our poll up though for our fan voted one is going to be 4 crazy holiday tales. We've got The Last Christmas by Gary Duggan and Brian Posehn. Krampus, Shadow of St. Nicholas by Michael Dougherty, same gentleman who did Trick or Treat and the movie Krampus. He also does some comic work. We've got Klaus, How Santa Claus Began by Grant Morrison.
And then Dan Moore on the art on that one.
Oh, yeah, Dan Moore.
I like Dan Moore.
And then Zombie Christmas Carol by Jim McCann and David Belden.
I've never heard of that one. So yeah, that's our like wild card where we're like, hey, we'll see. We'll figure out if this one's good or not. But yeah, so if you guys want to vote on that, you guys can join our Patreon like John said. And speaking of our Patreon members, we'd like to thank you all as usual. Hoku, Otaku, Mike, Christian, Matthew, Kyla, Joseph, Josh, and our newest member, Kalia. We thank you so much. We love you guys. You guys are awesome. And you keep the lights on. And as of our latest member, we can actually pay for the podcast with Patreon now. So, because, it costs money to host this thing. So, we appreciate you all and love you all. And so you guys can vote. And then also we're doing an exclusive like we do every month for you guys, just for patrons. And what is that, John?
So, yes, it is just for patrons. I think we're going to be in the holiday spirit, and I think.
That's right. That's right.
Cool.
We're being nice.
We're going to give everybody a chance to listen to the holiday special because we've always done a holiday special on our channel, but we've moved to just for patrons. But I think I'm getting Matt to not be a humbug this year. And we're going to give our normal Patreon holiday special for everyone for the holidays, and it is a twofer. It is 2 Hellboy holiday tales. We've got the new one that comes out this year, which I'm very excited for, Hellboy the Yule Cats. And
yes.
Then Hellboy Krampusnacht.
Yeah, Krampusnacht. So those are 2 Hellboy specials, which we haven't done. We did a couple, I think one Hellboy special like on our first Christmas, like 4 years ago. So good. It's good to revisit those, or good to revisit Hellboy for Christmas because he likes to do those Christmas specials, and usually they're pretty fucking sick. So once again, if you would like to become a patron, it's patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And with that, we'll see you guys on the next one.
on the next one.
Bye.